Welcome to The Catalyst, an exciting and insightful podcast produced by Northeast Iowa Community College. I'm your host, Amy Lasik. Together, we'll explore the people, programs, and partnerships that make Northeast Iowa Community College unique. From student success stories to behind-the-scenes info about athletics, innovation, and industry collaboration, each episode dives deeper into your community's college. Get ready for an inside look at the impact of community-driven education at NICC. All right, welcome everyone. Today's episode is a special one because we're bringing things full circle here on The Catalyst. My guest literally grew up in the Cresco Center at NICC, and now he leads it. So we are welcoming the Cresco director, Ryan Kreitzer. Ryan, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, Amy, thank you for having me. I really appreciate being here.
Great. Well, I have to ask you before we really jump into things. So back when you were in daycare at the NICC Center, did you ever think you'd be leading that center?
Gosh, no. Gosh, no. I would have never thought I would be where I am today.
Yeah, what did you want to do back then when you were 4 years old or so?
Oh, gosh, the goal was always to either be a professional athlete or an astronaut.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
I was obsessed with space growing up and just, I don't know what it was, but yeah, just that whole thing of it just being this everlasting, great big space and all exploring. And that was really something I wanted to do. So it was either professional athlete or astronaut.
Cool. And an athlete in any particular sport?
Oh, it was either football or basketball.
Okay. Okay. So, well, you didn't quite make it to the NBA, or in space, it doesn't sound like, unless there's something I don't know. But you did make it to director of the Cresco Center at NICC. So for those that aren't familiar with the Cresco Center, what can you tell us about it?
Yeah, we're located right here in Cresco, Iowa, right on the highway, right by the school. You may see the high school's big practice football field and their football stadium, or the big brown building right next to it. We've been here now since I believe 2002 was when the building was
Oh, wow.
first built. So, we've had a good presence in the community. We started more so for the adult education and then partnered with the high school. So we help a lot of students earn college credits while they're still in high school. So that's sophomore-ish starting age, but juniors and seniors mainly, where they're kind of navigating what they may want to do. So this is a great opportunity with us here at the center where they're able to take some classes, maybe test out the waters of a few different programs that they may be interested
Mhm.
in, but as well just kind of get that general education credits, kind of out of the way. So really they're getting a good leapfrog head start into their college experience as well.
That's awesome. Well, there's not a daycare in the Cresco Center anymore. But one of the things, no, but one of the things that was really interesting about reading about your story is how connected your entire family has been to NICC. Your mom was a student at NICC. You earned college credits while in high school, and now you work there. So pretty amazing story.
Yeah, like you said, I was about 4 years old when my mom went back to school in her late 30s. She wanted to be, in IT, so she wanted to get into like the computer hardware side of things, being able to fix computers. And so she went back after, having two or three jobs while I was growing up. So I got to see, what that was like firsthand, watching what my mom had to do to go back to school and being a part of the Calmar campus where the daycare center was at that time. She was taking classes, so she took me with her everywhere. So I was really exposed to NICC, like you said, from a young age. And then as growing up in Cresco, my great uncle, so my grandfather's brother, Wayne Kreitzer, he was the guidance counselor for roughly 35 years at the high school.
Oh,
But
wow.
back in the early 2000s, he thought, there would be a great place for the NICC to expand into the Cresco community school district. So he was an integral part of bringing this building, together, talking with people that see Mr. Kreitzer and see the relation. They always assume that, we were one and the same, or if not, he was my dad, funny enough. So yeah, just having him, be something of a guiding light for me. He
Yeah.
was my counselor in high school until the current counselor that's in place was there until about my sophomore year. And he always told me about the advantages of these students being able to take classes in college. And he was more so proud of the very first student that got their AA degree. I was probably in eighth grade and I
Oh,
went to
wow.
the NICC graduation with him. He was very, very proud of just, what the students were able to accomplish while he was
Yeah.
still a guidance counselor in high school, and seeing the students take advantage of the opportunities of, taking credits, dipping their toe in the water.
Mm-hmm. It's really
Maybe,
made really an impact for you. I mean, ever since you were little, education's been a part of your life.
oh, very much so. Education's always been really important. My two sisters leading the way going to college, my parents both going back in their 30s and 40s, going back to community college, Northeast Iowa Community College, and then my dad went to NIAC as well. But I mean, just seeing what they had to do to better themselves, I knew that, education was one thing that was really important to my family.
That's fantastic. What inspired you to take college credit classes while you were in high school? It sounded like you really were impacted by seeing that high school student graduate with their AA as well when you were like in eighth grade. But were there other reasons why you decided to do that?
I really didn't know what I wanted to do at the time. So I thought it'd be a good way for myself to get a little exploration into, what programs are actually out there available to
Mm,
me. Like I told you, it was kind of always pro sports, but, have to have a plan of what if that doesn't work out. So I wanted to take some classes just to see, is college the right fit for me?
sure, sure. Well, let's talk about that then, transitioning from high school into your next step. So, right after high school, you did play some sports at Iowa
Hmm.
Central, right? And then you studied sports management at the University of Iowa. And talk a little bit about what happened after that, because you had a really interesting path.
Yeah. So when I was in my senior year at Iowa, I did what we called like field events. And so I went down to Denver, Colorado, and I was able to shadow and then actually do like speed round or speed interviewing where you got about 15 minutes at a table. And then just by talking with the director at Cronky Sports and Entertainment, who is the partnership group for the Denver Nuggets, I was actually offered a job. So at the fall or end of my senior year, I was about 6 credits short, and I ended up taking a job though to go and work in the NBA. I did the inside sales and sports. It would be called sports marketing and what we called promotions. So what we
Hmm.
did is we worked with sponsorships within businesses in the Denver community and partnering them with the NBA organization there in town.
That's great. And you also worked for the Timberwolves.
Yep. So after about a year there, I went over and transferred to the Minnesota Timberwolves. I kind of wanted to get back to the Midwest.
Yeah.
Worked for the Timberwolves, did a lot of the same work, was able to make a lot of great relationships and kind of build my network out. Um, and through those experiences in the NBA, I kind of figured that wasn't actually more for me anymore. So was able to go and live that life, but really wanted to do something more that served, my community, something that gets me back into the roots. That's, where we made the transition from Denver back to Minneapolis, just trying to work my way back to the Midwest.
Yeah, so that's really interesting to me that, you're this sports guy. Ever since you were 4 years old, you dreamed about a job in sports. But really, when it came down to it, you found yourself back in Cresco, Iowa, and helping the community and working back at NICC.
Yeah, I loved what I did, but I found out that I loved more being a resource or being almost a solution. So if, I was having the conversations, building the network, I found that I was getting more enjoyment and just feeling more rewarded after being a problem solver. So I wanted
Mm,
to see how I could almost transition myself into a position where that's my daily, objective. I walk in and wake up every day seeing, what can I do to better help the people that, are around me or my community.
that's pretty cool. Any surprising similarities between working at the NBA and then working in education?
Surprisingly, there's more than what you think. It's a lot of the, I don't want to say I had a sales approach with the NBA, but it was more of just building those relationships and hearing, what can we do to best be a resource for you guys? And then in education, really, that's the biggest thing I take out of it is the listening skills that I was able to build and just hearing the needs in the community and hearing the needs of students and then seeing what we can do to best find them a path that really mirrors each other really well.
That's great. So let's continue down this journey. So now you're back in Iowa. You applied for a role with NICC, not as the Cresco director, but in another area.
Yeah, so I actually applied for a sales position. And then about a week later, I got a call. That position had been filled, but with my resume, they thought, there would be a good fit for the transportation program developer. And that really oversees all the transportation programs when it comes to the mandated driving, driver's education, CDL, um, all throughout the district. And, after doing a lot of research and coming, from Iowa, a family farm, I was like CDL trucking. I get that. So
Mm.
I thought, you know what, I'm going to jump both feet in. And honestly, I learned so much and was able to get the job. Very happy about that. And was able to work as a developer for my first year with NICC. And I loved every second of it.
Oh, that's fantastic. And then came the opportunity for director at the Cresco Center. What made you say yes to that type of opportunity?
Um, Honestly, when I took the transportation program developer, I was always thinking, what way could I get to Cresco Center? I see we have an NICC connection there, but really, I mean, the biggest thing that made me say yes is just the job responsibilities of what the director has. I'm rooted into the community. I get to talk with the younger demographics about, what can we do to best put you in a position for success, which is kind of going along with what I love to do, but then as well I have that networking and going out and being a community member, partnering with businesses, still having that sales acumen of going out and seeing what can we do to best serve the community here, and listening to everybody's maybe wants or needs that they have, and how can we best fit them with the resources we have here at NICC.
Yeah. And when you were a student in high school, you worked closely with the individual that worked at the Cresco Center to get into your concurrent classes. And so I'm assuming that you took a little bit of that with you as you went into this role.
Oh, very much so. You know, very, very appreciative of the people that have been in this position before me and now seeing them in higher leadership roles to help and guide me. But then as well, my counselor that pushed me through my senior year of high school, I now work with closely on a day-to-day basis with the high school student base that we have now.
That's one of the really cool things about small town Iowa is
Oh,
that
very much.
close knit. Yeah, that's fantastic. I love these stories. Let's talk about your day by day. What do
Yeah.
things look like as center director in Cresco?
I have a few things that are, usually going to be a everyday occurrence, things that I need to do, but really every day is different. Whether it's students calling in, having questions, concerns, wanting to have a 2-year plan, 4-year plan, or sometimes it's just, hey, I don't know where to start.
Mm.
And that conversation can take me into a full days or weeks worth of work, which I absolutely love doing. But then there might be another day where I have my more business to business hat on and I'm going out and I'm seeing, what needs do businesses have, listening to our partners and listening to, potential new partners and seeing, how can we best either round out their best potential current employees, or what can we do to help them maybe get exposure to the new younger demographic that's going to be coming into the workforce.
Mm. Yeah, it doesn't sound like you ever really have a boring day.
No, no, not here.
What gives you the most energy in this role?
When I see a lot of students, they come in and they're very, very nervous with the first meeting with me, just because I think it's just this whole ever-changing, landscape of what college or what higher education looks like, and really just showing them that, hey, you have an idea, you have, this guiding light. There is a way out, or not, I shouldn't say a way out. There is a way to get to the end goal, and it's a lot
Hmm.
easier than a lot of students think, or maybe are thinking about. And really the most rewarding thing is when the student walks away and they have a plan, or they at least know their next action items, and you can see that there's just a relief off their shoulders, right?
Yeah,
Because I mean, when you think about 4-year schools, it's, do I want to live close to home, away from home?
right.
What kind of classes should I be taking? What, if I want to study this program, do I need this class? And just making
Hmm.
sure that they have their X's and O's lined up and you can just see that weight lifted off, I feel like is really just rewarding for me, because not so long ago I was in their exact same shoes.
Yeah, it can be a lot of pressure nowadays for kids to make a decision. They're already being asked in middle school, what are you doing after high school? So that's
Mhm.
a lot of pressure for them to make a decision that young.
Yeah, very much so. And that's one thing that I'm happy that I'm able to just help them along the way and be that resource for
Yeah, what a great support system for our high schools. You don't do it alone. You have a great team there in Cresco. Can you tell us a
Yes.
little bit about that team?
Oh yeah. My center supervisor, Haley, she's been here for just over a decade, and Annie's been here. Annie Five, she's been our center associate now for the last 5 or 6 years. Between the three of us, I mean, we're just kind of a three-man wrecking crew. I mean, they handle a lot of the personal enrichment, so we also host a lot of youth camps, where we're bringing in, the younger grade school kids to have fun activity days. We have a Be Your Own Boss camp where there's an entrepreneurial day that they help lead. But then as well, they're just that welcoming face when you walk into NICC. They're the first two people that you see when you walk in. They're usually smiling. They're always the most helpful. And really, I'm so thankful that they are so student first thinking, making sure that, we're doing the best we can to make sure the students are, set up for success.
I think that's one of the cool things too about the fact that the center's been there for over 20 years is I had a chance to attend that Be Your Own Boss camp a couple years ago, and there were kids attending whose parents attended the same camp.
Yeah.
So that was
And
pretty cool.
that's really been a staple for us and just such a unique experience for kids to come in on a Monday with a business plan and then leave with a full on business presentation, a Shark Tank style presentation
Yeah.
and commercial, and just seeing how they grow in that week is very cool.
Yeah. Very proud of what they've learned.
Very
Um,
much.
what's something that you handle in your job that maybe people are surprised by?
That's a great question. I think the thing that people are surprised by the most is the coaching aspect that I kind of talked into of, really being a support for the students, but also just the community presence of, just going out and being at when new businesses are opening, when, what can we do to partner with businesses, whether it's contract training, like I said, to help round out individuals within the business, or even if it's just to train a new skill. I think a lot of people are surprised by just the scope of what NICC does. It's not just education for those students in high school, but it can be helping professionals either change paths or even help round out their skills well into their careers. So really it's not just helping, one, I would say just small demographic here, but really just how far and how robust we can help the community.
Yeah. And you mentioned welding. You have a pretty robust welding program at the center. You have a very dedicated instructor and a couple employers that are pretty major in the Cresco community. That so it's a nice system that you have there.
Yeah, very thankful for Jason By, our instructor. He has the skills from working in, a tool and die factory, but then as well bringing that over and showing students from a young age how to be safe in the welding shop, but then as well how to round out their skills. So they're certified welders when they leave our program, even while graduating high school. And we couldn't do it without, like you said, the two big supporters of Alumaline and Featherlight here in town who donate supplies or come in and have opportunities for the students to be able to go and tour facilities and really get that first step into what it looks like to be an employee for one of these companies after the skills that you're obtaining in our program.
That's great. Well, looking ahead, Ryan, what's your vision for the Cresco Center? Where would you like it to go next?
I think I would like for everybody to know, just a little bit more about what we're doing. We've been here, we've been in the community, but just knowing how much we've expanded. So really my goals are for me to go out and meet more new businesses, maybe expand to our surrounding community areas for people who may not have um, been able to benefit from us in the past, and showing them, that we do more than just education. We do contract trainings to help businesses and really just getting more um, versed in, or just getting our word out that we're, here to help the community in all aspects when it comes to, businesses, when it comes to the kids in school, but really just more so wanting to be a partner in the community.
That's great. And so if somebody's listening and maybe they're scared to take that first step, they know there's opportunity, they know they want to try something different or maybe take a college class, what would be your advice on what they should do next?
I would say the first thing you should do is give us a call. I'm always here, and not just me, my entire team. We're always here to just hear you out. And even if it's not an actionable item that you can do today, I think you'd be surprised after you have a conversation with us and we start going through the ins and outs of what it might take to get a degree. I think it becomes a lot less hectic for the student or individual, and you get that clearer path. So maybe if it's not a yes, right now it's, later down the road when it makes more sense for them, and just showing that anybody can do it. I saw my parents do it, in their 30s and 40s. I went back
Hmm.
to school after taking off a decade, and just knowing that you have the resources here within our center. We have the resources that we're still in touch with at the Calmar campus, and it's not just you alone. There's a whole community and there's a whole committee of us here at the Cresco Center here to support you along the way.
That's great. Well, before we wrap up, Ryan, I'd love to hear is there a standout moment or a moment that you remember since you've been working at NICC that, just warms your heart or gives you kind of a insight to the passion that you have for working at NICC?
Yeah, without naming names, I had a student who really, when I first got here, so almost 2 years ago, there was only about a semester left for the student, and we met on a weekly basis. And we went from the student not having a plan, didn't want to go to college, didn't know if he was going to work or not, and then finding one of our programs. So we have academies and different programs. So we have a heavy equipment operator program that went through. Student joined it, was able to complete the program, get their certification, was able to land a job within that program with a company that is in our area. And the student then was able to graduate high school early. So graduated in January and then worked full time. And I've talked to him now time to time, and just seeing that that student went from having no idea to 9 months later into a job, and then a year now, talking with them today, just ecstatic that they were even able to think about this opportunity. And every time we talk, just seeing how happy they are really warms my heart, because I know where they came from with that confusion and not having any idea, to seeing where now they have success and they're honestly just happy with their day-to-day life. And just knowing that we were kind of the middleman in that, making that happen, just really warms my heart.
Oh, that's great. I love hearing those types of stories because in education you don't always get to see the immediate results of the work that you do to help support students. But in a small town community like Cresco and your opportunity to leave fingerprints all over the community, you're able to see that growth. So that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan, if somebody wants to get a hold of you and learn more about what's happening at the Cresco Center, where would they go? Are you on social media? What sort of contacts do
Yeah.
you have there?
So we have a Facebook page, the NICC Cresco Center, but as well, you can go out to the nicc.edu/Cresco Center. All of our contact information's there. You can read about everything that we have to offer here through both the Facebook and our website. Our Facebook, we try to keep that up to date as much as possible. Or you can always feel free to give us a call. Our number is 844-642-2338, extension 4700.
Great. Well, Ryan, I am sorry you were never able to make it as a professional athlete or land on the moon, but it certainly sounds like your story has come full circle and is heartwarming nonetheless. So we're glad to have you here at NICC.
Well, thank you. And I'm
And
glad I ended up where I am.
that's awesome. Well, thank you for joining. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of The Catalyst. If you enjoyed the conversation, make sure to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. Want to learn more about NICC and the many ways we support our students, partners, and community? Visit nicc.edu for more resources and upcoming opportunities. This podcast is produced by Northeast Iowa Community College and hosted by Amy Lasik, with producer Tessa Hill, audio engineer Andrew Saunders, story editor Doug Ropa, and graphic designer Ashley Konzen.